Previously on Obscurus Lupa Presents...
¡Ay, Dios mío! ¡No! ¿Mi hermano? ¿Y mi perro? Oh, 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 oh.
And that's how I saved the president.
Alright, I've made it through Phantasm 1 and 2. And I guess 2 wasn't that bad, so 3's probably okay. Phantasm 3 is where they just said fuck it and did whatever they wanted. The story is more of a post-apocalyptic one, based in a world where more and more towns are being wiped out by the Tall Man. It's definitely more camp, and actually a pretty fun watch, though it doesn't even seem like a Phantasm movie at all. The movie focuses on Reggie, who once again magically survives near-fatal wounds from the previous film, as he searches for Mike, who has been kidnapped by the Tall Man. Reggie has basically become the face of the Phantasm films now, next to the Tall Man, which is good and bad. On the one hand, he's a great character, becoming a Bruce Campbell-esque anti-hero, and you love to watch him. On the other hand, other than his connection to Mike, he has fuck all to do with the story. The Tall Man has no interest or connection with him. He's really only there to get Mike out of jams and to fight Jawas. The real main character should be Mike, since he has the connection with the Tall Man, but he's not in the movie very much. It was great they got A. Michael Baldwin to reprise his role as Mike, although he's not used very much. At least they dress him age appropriately, even though I'm having a hard time believing he's supposed to be 22 in this movie. He was 31 at the time. As far as the other characters go, you can forget about Liz since her face is eaten less than 5 minutes into the movie. So much for those plans the Tall Man had. There are a couple more characters introduced as well, one being Tim, a kick-ass little kid that kills people, and Rocky, an ex-military girl who uses nunchucks. There's also a trio of zombie villains inexplicably introduced. This one starts with a recap of the previous films and a sort of explanation as to how the Tall Man came back.
And just when we think we've destroyed him.
That makes even less sense. Thanks, movie. Careful not to show the previous actor's face too much, the scene of Mike and Liz being taken away is recapped and ends in, you guessed it, an explosion. Somehow Mike is now outside the car and he's in a sorta kinda coma. But at least nobody died! Oh yeah. The Tall Man shows up to start some shit, but Reggie threatens to blow them all up, so he leaves. Oh, and then Mike's in a coma for 3 years. I guess. It's okay though, since it's a movie coma, and he's perfectly fine when he wakes up. I don't know what Reggie's doing this whole time. I guess he forgot about his blown-up family or something. When Mike wakes up, he's immediately attacked by, zombie nurse, but apparently years of muscle atrophy aren't an obstacle in fighting her off. Reggie and Mike take off and discover that Jody's still around, but he's one of the orb thingies. I'd go into a why monologue about this, but it's not worth it. I just question the fact that he ages in post-mortem. It almost seems not even worth the screen time, but whatever. But let's go into what worked for this movie. As I said before, they go a lot more camp for this one, and that's fine with me. Tim's introduction is great. 3 bad guys are trying to hurt him, so he basically kills all of their asses in horrible ways. The best death has to be this little gem. Rocky also kicks a lot of ass in this film, and probably saves everybody else. She uses nunchucks against a zombie, and that's just awesome. Reggie spends a lot of the movie trying to get into her pants, which is both funny and creepy, but I like that she sticks to her guns and doesn't give in. There are also a lot of cool fight scenes with the zombies, who just don't know when to give up. The Jawas and the Balls are back, as well as zombies, and whatever the hell the guys digging up the corpses are supposed to be. The spheres are a little less creepy when you find out there are brains inside them. They didn't really need to be humanized or have the good one with Jody, they really just needed to be kick-ass weapons. Although I will say that there are a ton more this time around, and seeing a whole room full of them is pretty epic. While the campiness is fun to watch, there is sort of a disconnect about this one. The focus of the films previously have always been Mike and the Tall Man, but they aren't in the movie a whole lot. There are just a lot of cuts to them doing nothing in particular until the very end. The 2 main characters they introduce aren't in any of the other films and have even less to do with the story than anyone else. Tim seems more like a replacement for Mike, but in the end he doesn't really do much. Rocky steps in and saves Reggie a lot, but in the end she leaves town and it seems kind of pointless having her there at all. The three zombie antagonists have speaking lines, unlike the other corpses in the film, and it makes it seem more like a Return of the Living Dead movie than a Phantasm one. Gone is the dreamlike feel or the creepy mystery of the tall man. We never get any answers, and the plot continues to get more and more convoluted. Later on in the film, Mike remembers the scene from the first movie where the tall man is walking by the ice cream van and turns to look at him. Apparently this means that cold is his weakness, although he doesn't seem particularly bothered by it in the scene. So in the end of the film, they kill him off by freezing him and a sphere comes out of his head. Not that it really matters, because the climaxes of all of these films are pretty inconsequential. Mike takes off since he's got a spear in his head now, and he's got to find himself or something, and Reggie is once again presumably killed. Then they end on this.
It's all over.
It's never over.
What a surprise. Let's get this over with. Here's part 4. Well, I did ask for more of Mike and the Tall Man. You know how in the first film there's a sense of mystery, where you think the Tall Man has plans but you never really know what they are? Where he and Mike have this strange connection and everything is creepy? Well, this is kinda like that, but boring and you don't care. I feel like I need to explain myself a little bit before I get into this 4th installment. The point of the first film is really that you can't tell what's a dream or what's not, and while you don't get the answers and the end kind of annoyed me, I was still fine with it, because in the end, the whole thing might not have even happened. It's a great little mystery that was intended to end with that film, and the story was over. Except that it didn't end with that film, and that's what annoys me. Because by continuing the story, it implies that some of these things have happened, and by trying to make sense of it, it makes even less sense. Not only that, but the hints we get about what's really going on only convolute the story and make it more complicated than it needs to be. You had to think about the original, but there really wasn't much to it, which made it effective. By adopting a real storyline, the dreamlike mood has been dropped, and instead of making the viewer wonder if anything really happened, we instead get lots of, and it was all a dream moments that piss you off. Oh yeah, the 4th movie. I sure hope you like lots of cutscenes from the original, because that's what a lot of this is. Sure, it wasn't good enough for the first movie, but it is good enough for part 4. Even though it seems a little cheap to use the unused footage from the original, I do commend Don Coscarelli for finding a way to use them to serve the story. By showing us a scene where Mike traps the tall man in a noose and he convinces him to set him free, you get a sense of how the tall man can manipulate Mike to do what he wants him to do. And that's sort of what's being implied in this movie, that the tall man wants to make Mike like him. Which still doesn't make a lot of sense, especially considering the origin story they give him, but it's sort of something. The cutscenes also show a bit more of Mike and Reggie interacting, and cement the father figure aspect that was either rushed or missing in the other films. Reggie wasn't in the first film that much, and seemed more like a friend of Jodie's, so when it's revealed that he's adopted Mike in the end, it seems like an odd choice. But there are scenes shown in this one with the two of them spending time together, and it helps you to see the relationship more clearly and understand why Reggie tries so hard to find him. Speaking of Reggie, he once again survives a supposed death from the previous film.
Small man, your end approaches, but it is not yet.
Why? Why can't you kill him now? And how do you know when his time is? Are you psychic now? You can't make up powers all willy-nilly. Oh, and Reggie also has this kick-ass fight scene with the zombie cop.
Fuck you! Blow me. Wow. Some cops can be real assholes.
The rest of the movie follows him as he tries to find Mike again, and follows Mike as he stumbles around in the desert for a while. That's it. I don't know what happened to Tim, I guess he died at the end of the third one. As for Mike, he spends most of his time trying to figure things out. Jodie kinda follows him around, but he's once again pointless. Mike also discovers that he can summon the tall man's portal things now, and he goes looking for his origin. And I never thought I'd say this, but trying to figure out what he is just makes the story even worse. Mike goes through the portal and back in time and meets Jebediah Morningside, who has either created or discovered a dimensional fork. Why does he have this? Who knows? The point is, he goes inside it and either never returns or returns as something else, thus becoming the Tall Man. I'm not sure if something turned him into what he was or if he just took his place, but if someone can be turned into that so easily, then why is it so hard to get Mike? And why Mike specifically, as opposed to anyone else? There's also a random-ass dream sequence in the Civil War where the Tall Man is screwing with Mike again. Why? I know I've complained about not getting the answers, but by doing the Tall Man's origin this way, it takes away his creepiness and makes him just a little less scary. I mean, we even see him offering Mike lemonade. It's just a little strange and a little disheartening to see the character like this. This could have been explained differently as well, and left it up to the viewer's imagination as to how things really panned out. We didn't need to see Jebediah Morningside, only know that the Tall Man might have been human at one point. In any case, the story isn't affected too much, and Mike's knowledge of this doesn't help or hurt him. And for some reason, the gypsy lady from the first movie is hanging out with Jebediah. I'm not even going to try and make sense of that. While the second and third films weren't exactly up to par with the original, they were enjoyable in their own ways, where you could have fun with them and not take them so seriously. This one doesn't have a lot of the camp of those two, and certainly doesn't hold up to the original, so there's not a lot to enjoy here. Although there are sphere boobs, so there's that. We do get to find some entertainment in Reggie though, especially in a scene where they poke fun at the gag in all of the movies where a car blows up no matter what.
Oh my god!
We better move away from the car before the gas tank blows.
Wait! I thought cars only blow up like that in the movies.
Yeah, me too.
He suits up in his ice cream uniform again to kick ass at the end of the film. And Mike also uses his newfound Tall Man powers to create a sphere of his own and take the time to blow up the Tall Man and a car, because they had to fill their quota this film. As usual, the Tall Man survives, and he takes the sphere out of Mike's head, leaving him to die. The film ends with Reggie promising to help him and following the Tall Man into his dimension. There's also another scene from the first film where they dub in some lines as if their past selves can hear their present selves. Don't know why that would help or what that has to do with anything, but whatever. The point is, Reggie's in the Tall Man's dimension, and that's badass. And then it ends. There wasn't another one. Damn it, I wanted to see Reggie kicking some interdimensional ass. And you know what the sad part is? This film wasn't even supposed to be made like this. Don Coscarelli wanted to make a post-apocalyptic, badass Phantasm film with Bruce freaking Campbell as a co-star, but didn't have the funding for it. This was meant to get the funding, but unfortunately that fell through, and instead we're left with what is essentially filler. If there's ever a fifth Phantasm film, I want my Reggie and Bruce Campbell post-apocalyptic team-up. No more of this. Alright, I did it. I reviewed all 4 Phantasm movies. Now will you let me out of here?
I didn't say you were finished.
There were no other Phantasm movies. What else could there be?
Not true. There is one more.
It can't be. You're... Angry Joe. You bastard. You blew me up and threw me into reviewer limbo just so I could review your dumb fan film?
Hey! You brought this on yourself. I kept sending you those letters, and you never answered them.
That's because I don't want to review your stupid movie. I've got enough shit to do.
Well, now guess what? You have to review it, or we fight to the death.
Never.
Did you really think you had a chance against me? Now, will you review my movie?
Never! Yeah, biatch!
Why, you little... Now will you review my movie?
Okay, fine.
Just sit tight right there. I'll be right with you in a second. You all right, man?
So, Lupa, what'd you think?
What's up, ass?
Wow. Some cops can be real assholes.